Internationally, you know me as Aisha, the Yellow Power Ranger, and you are watching Enemy Secrets. But hey, join me next year at Ranger Stop and Pop, June 13th through the 15th in Atlanta, Georgia. It is our final year, so come and have a fun time with us. It is like a family reunion of Power Ranger fans, Power Rangers, and we're just going to have the best time ever. It's morphin' time.
Toku Secrets is a podcast run by the Anime Secrets website. Check us out at animesecrets.org for more anime, video game, tokusatsu content. Remember to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts today.
Oh, yes! This is Goldar, and you're listening to Toku Secrets Podcast. Don't tune us out, tune us in.
Welcome to Toku Secrets. Join us as we journey into the marvelous world of Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Power Rangers, and many other Tokusatsu. Get ready for the adventure of a lifetime. It's Morphin' time! Link to the Morphin'. I'm Nathan Desai, the dazzling adventurer, Smokin' Silver.
I'm Patrick Allen, I'm Shinken Red.
And I'm Ridwan Merchant, Gokai Red.
And I'm Anthony Davis, also known as Curie Green. And we're Toku Secrets.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Toku Secrets podcast presented by animesecrets.org. And today we are taking a break from Chodeki Sentai Ranger. Thank God. I think we can all agree on that. Where we are going to be returning to the current Sentai that is airing in Japan, number one Sentai GoZyuger. Last time we took a look at episodes 2 through 5, following up on our solo review of the first episode. And today we're going to be taking a look at episodes 6 through 10, as the 10th episode has recently become available in the US. We're going to continue to review this. So yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I personally am kind of starting to get a little bit more intrigued by the series with these episodes, but we can talk about that more when we get into it, go into the deep stuff. But yeah, episode 3 of our GoZyuger review series. Here we go. To kind of recap what happened in our last batch. So with the first episode being one of those typical first episodes where we just get introduced to the Red Ranger, pretty much the last batch was all about us meeting our other 4 Rangers, so all of which we met through the point of view of Hoeru, Goju Wolf. So we met 4 other, they're not officially called this, but this is just kind of, Riz kind of coined this term, so we're calling them this from now on, ring bearers. We have our suave and charming former super idol, Rikuo Byakuya. He's Goju Leon, a lion-themed Blue Ranger. We have a Sword fanatic monk and a strongman called Ryugi Bakugami. He's Goju Tyranno, a Tyrannosaurus Rex-themed Yellow Ranger. We have Joji Takehara. He's an 87-year-old man whose ring pact has returned him to his younger form. He wants to return to his youth so he can be more of a partier. So his name is Joji, but he calls himself Kinjiro because he's in the same high school class as his grandson, so he doesn't want to make it obvious who he is. He is Goju Eagle-themed Green Ranger. And then to round up the cast, we have Sumeno Ichikawa. She's a former cop, now private investigator. She's hell-bent on finding the person responsible for the disappearance of her little sister Odo. She's Goju Unicorn, a unicorn-themed Black Ranger. We also have a rival for Hoeru called Tokunatsu Watami. He's the Prime Minister of Japan, very popular. He has a ring that allows him to transform into Don Momotaro. We found out that the rings give the GoZyugers enhanced powers. Hoeru has enhanced sense of smell. Rikuo has hearing, superhuman hearing. Ryugi is super strong. Sumino has mind reading abilities. We don't know what Kinjiro's is, although it's more than likely him just maintaining his young appearance since he can revert back to his old appearance. And right now the GoZyugers are kind of acting independently. Like they'll fight together against the Baridon, but they're not formally a team, so they're kind of like all in a friendly rivalry type of relationship. So we start off with this batch with episode 6, the final battle, the great adventures of Tokusatsu Castle, where the big part about this episode is that Tokusatsu challenges the GoZyugers to a trial for his ring. They all get involved in this challenge where they have to go through a bunch of trials in a castle that he creates with his Bokenger ring. And then Hoeru, he confronts Tokusatsu. We find out a little bit more about his past, how he and his brother, and remember his brother because that's going to be important a little bit later in this batch. They wandered into the No One world, and that's the world where the villains live. And when they were kids, he lost his brother and everyone dear to him. And then when he got back to the human world, he found out that his parents had just moved on with 2 new kids, which understandably left him pretty devastated. And Tokunatsu reveals, meanwhile, that his wish from his Dream Pact is to have a true friend, and then to kind of and then the climax of this episode is that Hoeru and Tokunatsu they have their fight. Hoeru wins and gets his rings. He has on top of having the Dawn Brothers ring that allowed him to transform into Don Momotaro. He's also shown to have the rings for Jetman, Bokenger, and Time Ranger. Although I think he was already revealed to have the Time Ranger ring.
Oh,
And
he beat off that one guy. No, I'm tripping. No, I'm thinking of the Resoldier guy. My bad.
yeah. No. I think he did use that Time Ranger ring in that fight, so I think it was revealed in. But this is the first time we're finding out that he had the Jetman and Time Ranger rings.
Yeah.
Uh, no, not Jetman and Time Ranger. I meant Jetman and Bokenger. But Hoeru has pledged that he'll be Tokunatsu's friend, so Tokunatsu's content with his wish being granted. This episode ends on a bit of a cliffhanger because Sumeno gets into a fight with Mr. Shiny Knife and Mrs. Sweet Cake. And then this new ring bearer shows up. He's transformed as Tyranno Ranger, and he's piloting DaiZyuJin. And speaking of which, Sumeno uses Take a Sword for the first time. So this is the first appearance of Take a Sword Black. So yeah, that is all the information on this episode. What do we think of it?
DaiZyuJin has returned to kill Bry himself.
That's a good way of putting it.
I was like just expecting him. My first thought was he was like, "There's an awful lot of not killing Bry going on around here." What I had a thought about this episode, but it escaped my mind. Someone else can start. I'm trying to.
I
I'm
will
trying to
say
get my thoughts
this.
back.
I love the fact that freaking the cape does wonders to get your aura up and make you look so much badass and so cool. Because it kind of reminds me of like there was the season of Gundam I used to watch called Gundam 00, and the main character had his Gundam covered in like a similar robe too. That's kind of reminds me, kind of look you remind me of.
I'm gonna have more of a deep cut. He reminded me of Rokusho
Yeah, also Rakusho from Metal
from
Bots.
Metarot. Yeah.
But I mean, making it look more badass. That's saying something because DaiZyuJin. I mean, say what you will about Ranger, but DaiZyuJin is a really badass looking mech. So to make it look even more badass is impressive.
I think the entire plot line with who's the name of the guy that was rocking Dama Motaro?
Tokunatsu.
I do like how this ended, but I also feel like it was a little bit anticlimactic.
Yeah, it was.
Like, I mean, it was a good ending for his little arc, but it was also kind of flat.
It it doesn't. This episode doesn't really add a lot for the 5. It's a great episode for Takanatsu,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like we don't get a lot out of these other guys, like the main 5. They were supposed to be like,
Didn't we
around.
get the backstory of Howeru though?
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that part. I thought it was the next episode for some reason.
But I think the bigger issue is that like they introduce the way that they bring in Tokunatsu, you think that like at the maybe he won't be a character for the entire series because he is ultimately just one of these like extra guys who can transform into one of the older Rangers. But you get the feeling that like they're gonna have like a really big like character arc that might last at least a quarter of the season, and the way they introduce him with so much grandeur, and then ultimately when you really think about it, especially since I mean, okay, we might see him in a later episode past this batch, but as of right now, ultimately he was just kind of a catalyst for us to kind of get a bit more of a revelation what like what Hoeru is about, as well as kind of setting the ground for why Hoeru is the way he is. Like ultimately, he was just a catalyst for that, and that genuinely sucks because he was a great character, and you
Mm-hmm.
just kind of wish that they did a lot more with him than what, at least up to now, they've done with him.
Yeah, they kind of burned through him a little bit faster than I was wanting. Because I agree with you. I thought he was going to be like not. I mean, in the same essence as how Boom Boomger handled their generals. Like,
Yeah,
who was the first one again? Was it Disrace?
yeah. I think
He
it was this
was
race.
he was there for like what 15-ish episodes or something. And then they
Hmm.
kind of cycled into another one and everything. And I thought that he was going to fit into that like early season thing, but I guess not.
Wait, did you mean this race or did you mean Mad Rex?
Mad Rex, thank you. Yeah, it was Mad Rex. Yeah, he was there for a good like 15, 10 something ish episodes. I thought this guy was going to fill that same role. And I thought that was going to be an interesting idea of having like ring wielders kind of filling the role of like the generals per se.
Like antagonists for the
Yeah,
Rangers and stuff.
yeah, having like the other ring wielders. That's a tongue twister right there.
Ring
Ring wielders,
bearers. Ring
bearers.
bearers.
Yeah. See, yeah, but that's not as fun to say. um,
You're not a Lord of the Rings fan. Get out.
I know. Um, but I was kind of hoping that they would he would be like the first of like overarching like rivals,
Hmm.
but maybe we'll get more of them as the season goes along. But yeah, it just
Well, there's still Kawaga Ogers,
yeah, he'll definitely come back at some point.
I wonder what he's up to.
But I think the bigger takeaway from here, and this is probably the big episode that kind of is now having me intrigued. Like I want to keep watching at this point is whoever's backstory. Like I'm not obviously. I don't want to say that it's plot holes because they're obviously going to reveal this all later on. But it does create a lot of questions. Like, okay, he and his brother just once randomly wandered into the no one world. Okay, were the no ones were they kidnapping humans for some reason? Like were they like maybe they didn't necessarily wander in? Maybe from their perspective they did, but was this part of like a scheme from the no ones where they were kidnapping people and what was it like when they were in the no-on world, and most importantly, how did Hoeru's parents just like they were just like, oh wow, our two sons disappeared. Well, okay, let's just get two more kids and pretend like they never existed. Like so, like
And
how did
see,
that happen?
that's
Did
kind of that's kind of one of my complaints with this episode was it it comes across, if you think about it, like very little, as a very well thought out, interesting plot, but it's actually pretty unoriginal and it feels a bit more cliche.
What made you say unoriginal?
I mean, the brother thing is pretty common throughout, like, just different medium, like beyond even Sentai. Like, hey, I have my brother. He's part of this journey. It gives me. I know it's not the same thing, Patrick, but like in Digimon O2, when
Mhm.
Ryu comes and goes, like just wandering in the desert type thing. I get that kind of vibe when I think of these two kids out there,
Yeah.
and like it just seems like, okay, we could have added a bit more of a twist, not a twist, but like a spin to make it more unique in this Sentai, because a lot of things do this where it's like, hey, our two kids have gone off and they encountered this world years before.
I think there's a lot more layers to this that they're going to reveal later. This
You know,
explanation was a little bit too simple.
and that's my thing.
If they leave it just as this throughout the rest of the show, then I'll come back and it'll validate your complaint. But I think sit on it for a little bit.
And then
There's
Maybe
no
it's
way
possible.
there's no way it's this simple.
and then I also wanted to point back to Sumuri's sister. I think she might have been in the No One World too. And I'll even guess this because I know somebody else had mentioned it on another video or whatever I was watching. Some people want to assume that maybe Boquette might be the sister. I know that's a bit long stretch, but I don't think that's possible. It could be a possibility.
I could see that actually.
And then I also want to hit, why is it that she was such a fangirl for Byakuya, whereas like anybody else would have been like, oh, like what's the big deal? Maybe part of her was a fan of his back in the day, and that idolization kind of like surfaced itself back into her memories. Not like necessarily she remembers everything, but she is like, oh my god, like yeah, like she remembers like liking Byakuya for some reason because
I
she was a
mean,
fangirl of his.
if that's the case, Anthony, I think that's something we need to note for later because you might be onto something. That could answer a question Nate had. Were they kidnapping people? Maybe they kidnapped her and she couldn't get away and they like assimilated her into their army of some kind.
Yeah,
That's a possibility. Like genuinely it
And
is.
and the more I think about it, like they call it like the no one world. So maybe like the fact that Hoeru's parents were able to move on from him so easily, maybe like, and this is just kind of a wild take, but what I would think that they might do is that because they were like kidnapping people and like they were, or maybe not even necessarily kidnapping people, like anyone who just ends up wandering into this no one world, like they end up becoming no one. So for all the human world knows, like they could just, completely just be vanish from reality, kind of like how, when someone joins the Men in Black, like, you don't exist, you were never even born, you're only recognizable as like deja vu and then just get dismissed. Like maybe like just through the magic of that world, like their parents' brains just got zapped of any memory of them, and then they
Mhm.
just thought, oh well, we never had kids. Let's have two more kids because we always wanted to have two kids.
Yeah.
Because as far as they are concerned, those two kids that they had never existed. Which I'm honestly leaning toward that probably being the case, and I hope I'm right because if they just have to be like, oh, they just accepted that their kids were dead and moved on, I will that that is, yeah, I can't do that. And I really hope that they're doing
they
what
would
I'm
they would
suggesting
end
that
up
they're gonna
looking
do.
worse than freaking. Let me compare two parents from. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean,
It would make Timmy Turner's parents and Vela parents look way better in comparison. That's the case.
and
Yeah, exactly.
those two are incompetent, by the way.
Yeah.
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 Um, But yeah, I would say that like I don't want to give it I don't want to rank it very high, like with a 9, because the Tokusatsu stuff is kind of disappointing, but it does lay the groundwork for Hoeru's backstory, and it does have a lot of intriguing things. Um, Especially with the whole like, his parents having moved on from him. I've not seen that in a Sentai before, so I'm really curious to see where they'll go from here. Now, if they end up not going, now whether or not they end up taking a good route is a completely different story. But at least for what this episode is, I would probably give it an 8.
Mm, I'll
I'm gonna give it
seven
an
it.
8 too. I'm
I
gonna
was
give it
thinking
8 too.
7.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7 too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8.
All right. So
All
on
right.
to the next.
Yep, we have episode 7. Get excited, come together, go Jugers. Where it's kind of a weirdly focused episode, and you guys will figure out why right now. But we the Terrain Ranger ring bearer. Find out who he is. His name is Osai Megaru. He's a professor of Sentai archaeology. His Tyranno Ranger ring allows him to restore past Sentai robos, which is why he's able to use DaiZyuJin. Um, Osai is really angry because he doesn't like how the GoJugers aren't fighting alongside each other like a team should, and he challenges Hoeru, Ryugi, and Kinjiro to a challenge with Omu Rice, where they have to work as a team, and he uses Omu Rice as this weird metaphor to show that a Sentai can only be a Sentai when they come together as a team. He offers them hit 2 of his rings. And at the end of the episode, they're able to accomplish this, learning that they need to work together more. We see the first full team transformation together with the GoJugers. They transform together and they do their roll call. They call themselves number 1 Sentai GoJuger for the first time. Ryugi and Kinjiro get Osai's rings. So 2 of his other rings. That allows them to transform into, well, actually, we get all 4 of the Dinosaur Red theme Rangers because Osai is Torino Ranger. Sumino was able to transform into Ryuso Red because she was given that ring from Tokunatsu in the past. And now Ryugi and Kinjiro, they get the Aba Red and the Kyoryu Red ring. So we get a little mini Dinosaur Red team up, which is pretty cool. Uh, we also get a little bit of backstory on Rikuo, where he never really had any interests as a kid. Like, he was just kind of lonely, nothing really interested him. His world was really foggy, but then he became an idol and he discovered how great the world can be when he made people happy. So we find out his ring path is to be the number 1 idol. So, yeah, I think now the only person who's which we don't know right now is Ryugi, although he might just be, although given how he is, his goal is probably just to sort of take a sword and that's it. But hopefully we'll find out more about that later. But yeah, this episode does end on a cliffhanger with a mysterious figure showing up and shooting Osai in the back. We'll go into more detail on that in the next episode. But yeah, what do we think about episode 7?
Okay. I might sound negative as I explain myself, but I want to say I think this episode is where I feel a bit of a turning of the tide.
Mm-hmm.
So
Same.
I think up until this point, I've been very frustrated with GoZyuger, and I couldn't figure out why I've been frustrated. Like, I know there are things I don't like about it, but I couldn't pinpoint, hey, here's the thing I don't like about GoZyuger. And through watching this BAPS, I've kind of started identifying what are the things I don't like in GoZyuger and what are the things I do like. And what I haven't liked so far is it just seemed very lacking in a direction of, hey, we have these 5 people, they're a Sentai, but they are all for one and none for all type thing. So they're not supposed to be unified. They're all like one. They're all like just for themselves and very focused on becoming number one. Which, by the way, is a stupid theme, and I hate the theme in general of number one this, number one that. It's getting very annoying to me in general. But that's a whole nother rant for another point in time. But I don't like their disconnected feel from each other. Because on one hand, they're disconnected. Like, they're not supposed to be working together. But even up until episode 7, whatever members of the team have met and they've, interacted, they've all of a sudden become like a team and they're all sitting in the cafe, talking, conversing, and kind of collaborating together. But it took this guy Osai to say, hey, y'all are supposed to be a team. Y'all should be doing like a team up and a henshin together and like a pose off, blah, 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 whatever. And he has a good intention because he's trying to tell them how to be a Sentai. But he didn't really do a lot in terms of like getting them to work together because they'd already kind of been working together. Like, had this team been separated out, like maybe all doing their own thing separate without really talking to each other and interacting together, then I could say, okay, Osai came and got them all together and they're a team now. And that'd be fantastic. But that's not the case here. So it's like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And it's kind of frustrating. Like, okay, either you were a team or you were not a team. You can't have it halvesies. And that entire concept has been annoying me from the get-go. And I'll say it again because I think I said it last time. King Ozer did this kind of thing a way better than GoZyuger has been.
Yeah, I won't deny that.
Because at least King Ozer, they made it clear, like, hey, we have our own kingdoms, but here's our common threat that we're going to work together and kick ass against to protect the collective. But we're still our own kingdom. We still want to be, I forget what the term was, but like the king of kings or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they had like a reason to work, but these guys didn't have a reason to work together, but yet they're in a cafe hanging out. No big deal. And it just bugs me that, they all work together and then Osai comes around and he's like, hey, y'all should be working together to do a thing.
Well, to be fair, Riz, I don't think they even knew they were a Sentai team.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they knew or did not know. They were acting like a team before being told, hey, y'all should be a team.
I mean, yeah, but I still don't. I get what you're saying, but I still don't fully agree with it. But I get what you're saying, though.
Why don't you agree with it?
I feel like they weren't really working. It was like begrudgingly.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what.
They were working together. Like, Yellow.
I think it's more like how the Go-Onders and Go-On Wings were working together early on, where, okay, we're not enemies, but we're not also officially teammates. Like, we have a common enemy and we'll fight alongside each other. But at this and but at the same time, we have to keep in mind that we're all kind of competing against each other in this big fight for us to achieve our wishes. So we can't get too comfortable with being friends because at some point we're going to have to fight each other.
I think that parallel is terrible.
I mean, it is a little bit off, but I kind of see where Nate worded it pretty well.
Okay, it trails off with the whole contest against each other. That's where it doesn't parallel with the. So I kind of trailed off like with a kind of explaining how the dynamic works with GoZyuger.
Yeah.
But in the case of, but if you remove the whole like competition element and just kind of just say, well, we're not friends, but we're not enemies. We have a common enemy. We have to fight against each other,
And
like
that would
a
have
friendly
been
rivalry
fine.
type
But
of
having
thing.
this stupid number one contest, like, I'm sorry, I hate this theme. I really do.
Well,
There's got to be a reason behind it. I mean, there's
The reason why I hate the theme.
No. I mean, like, there's gotta be a reason why the theme is number one. I mean, it's not just
I
out of
mean,
nowhere. It has to be some kind of
I'm
explanation
sure there's
for
a
it.
reason for it, but it doesn't stop me from disliking the theme because it doesn't help progress anything. Because okay, so if they were like the wings and the go-onsters, because I think you were going somewhere with it, Nate, until you weren't.
Yeah.
Um, I think okay, if they were begrudgingly working together and they're saying, "Hey, we're the go-onsters, y'all are the wings. Every now and then we got to team up and fight something that's beyond our individual capabilities." That's one thing, but having this extra element of, oh yeah, by the way, all 7 of us hate each other and we're all like enemies of each other because at the end of the day we got to fight each other to become number one. But they don't exhibit that rivalry all that much. Like they kind of reference it offhand, like, oh yeah, one day we're gonna have to fight each other, but they just don't do a good job explaining, like setting it up. Like King Ozer set it up perfectly, where they're like, hey, 5 kingdoms, 5 different worlds. They come together for a common threat against the Ragnarok, and that's cool.
I mean,
But
I don't know. I personally find the dynamic. I get what you're trying to say, and I can definitely 100% agree that um that King Eldred did this a lot better, but I still think that the dynamic works fine because I mean they all have different wishes. Now, granted, some are a bit more defined than others. Like we know for certain what Sumino wants. We're only just now finding out in this episode what Rikuo wants, but we know for certain what Kinjiro wants. Now, Kinjiro, we kind of made it clear is a bit more of an awkward execution. But like we all know that they all have their own wishes and desires, and this whole competition for each other. Now, granted, I kind of feel like they could have handled it in a more darker type of way because it feels, and you can't, and Riz and Patrick wouldn't know what I'm talking about because they haven't seen this Common Rider season, but it does feel like very similar to like the plot of Common Rider Ryuki, where everybody's fighting against each other and the winner gets one wish granted to them. It does feel reminiscent of that, but Ryuki, now I'm not a big fan of that series, but it kind of handled it with a more heavier handed and darker tone as opposed to this, which seems to kind of have a bit more of a lightheartedness about it. Because I can 100% agree with Riz that the whole "let's be number one" thing is just kind of getting eye rolling at this point.
it
If
is.
they took this plot and handled it with the more heavy-handed, serious tone that Ryuki did, and Anthony can back me up with it because I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
he's seen Ryuki.
I've seen
Um,
Ryuki. I haven't finished
yeah,
Ryuki, but I have seen Ryuki. Yes.
yeah. Then it probably would have worked a whole lot better.
Yeah, and I mean, it. They needed something more, and like, okay, so I don't care that we don't have like well-defined. Okay, so I do care about it actually because you're saying that they don't all have well-defined wishes yet, but within like 2 episodes of King Ozer, we knew how each kingdom was run by their individual king for the most part, with the exception of Garrett because he's never been king before, but he's learned to be king now. But you knew how these 4 people operated and how their kingdoms were run. So you at least understood their motivation and how they kind of think. But with this group, you got one idol who's just kind of there. You got this guy who transcends time because he was an old man, but now he's in a young kid's body, which I still don't really care for as a storyline.
Yeah.
Um, and then you got the weird priest guy who's there to just say, "Oh, take a sword this, take a sword that. Oh my God, take a sword, take a sword, take a sword." Everything is take a sword for that guy. Like you don't really see anything beyond like a quick surface level one line explanation for who these people are. Like Black and Red are fine, but these other 3 idiots don't really have anything going for them so far. Like even if you tell me like, okay, he wants to be like the idol of the world or whatever, that doesn't really add anything to him because he's always been like that from day one. Nothing has changed now that we know this. Because we could always infer, okay, he's just this guy who wants to be an idol. But if we connected it more to like, hey, he had this different colored eye and he was part of some bigger thing, and his wish is related to that stuff, you're hitting money.
But Riz, you were saying that this was like a turning point or something. Like, are you starting to say that like you're actually starting to genuinely dislike the season, or like you're starting to see
So
some hope?
I see hope, but not in the places I would want to see the hope. So I don't like the three idiots all that much. I love Red and Black by the end of this BAPS. I think they're pretty
Hmm.
awesome now. But most of what I like in here is seeing these side characters like Tonkatsu, and there's a character we're going to see in episode 8 that I like a lot. And they're more interesting to me, and they're the reason I'm more invested in this TV show now than I was before. If you leave it to the main five, it's the other way. I would not like this season at all. But we have other characters that are kind of filling the void for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean,
And
honestly, you made this point a bit earlier, Riz, about how you didn't feel that Osai did enough to like help them come together as a team, and they kind of piggyback off of that point. My biggest complaint about this episode is that ironically enough, even though it's called "Come Together, Go Jugers," that whole plot of them coming together as a team feels almost like an afterthought because 90% of this episode is all about Rikuo and Sumino dealing with the monster, and we learned about Rikuo's backstory, which okay, fine, cool, but could we learn about that in like a later episode and not have it be the main plot in an episode where the other plot is about them trying to learn how to be as a team. Like this honestly would have been a much better episode if it revolved around entirely around Osai, not just messing around with Hoeru, Ryugi, and Kinjiro, but having all five of them there, them learning to be more like a team and coming together in their weird, bizarre type of way. Like, he could have done, they could have put a lot more emphasis on it than it actually did. Like, there's a very good idea in this episode, but the way they executed, I'm not going to say it's done horribly, but you could have done it a whole lot better. Like,
I
why is
think
this? Yeah, go
I
ahead,
think
Patrick.
I think the whole coming together thing worked better 2 episodes from now.
hang on. Yes, I would agree with you.
It
See,
worked a
even
lot better at the end of episode 9. So
I mean, to bring up a Sentai that handled this dynamic a lot better, like
King
the
Ozer.
the well, okay, yeah, King Oger, but and GoZyuger, it takes a little while for them to come together as a team. The episode where they finally come together, okay, it's primarily an episode that revolves around Daigo and Ian, but the other GoZyugers are there and they do their own thing, and we've already gotten episodes specifically revolving around them joining with Daigo. So for Ian to just kind of be the last piece for them to be a full five team, it it's again it's not handled as good as King Oger did it, but it was still handled decently. But here it's like the whole Rikuo plot. What does this have to do with them coming together? I mean, cool, we're learning about his backstory, but I would much rather see these people come together more as a team before I learn about Rikuo's backstory. And not only that, but it doesn't help by the fact that Rikuo's backstory is not that interesting.
But I mean, okay, going back to my original crux to my argument, if you want them to be separate and come together, then keep them separate and don't have them come together until episode 9 or whatever point in time you want them to come together. Like King Ozer, I don't think they became a real team until like freaking episode 20. Like they were working together on and off, but they were all separate in their own kingdoms, doing their own thing, occasionally doing things together when they had no choice. But in this case, these guys essentially work, live, and hang out together all the time, like any other Sentai. There's no difference in how they interact with each other. than like maybe the Go-Onzers or the Zyurangers or insert any Sentai team you want here. Like they all hang out together, they all do stuff together. That you might argue all you want that they're doing it begrudgingly, they're doing it out of like, necessity, but they're not really. There's nothing telling them to all go hang at a freaking cafe together. They just go do it because they want to.
Yeah, definitely. I I don't know. The way that they're handling a lot of these things is just weird execution, to say the least. And I'll give this Sentai credit for it's definitely a unique Sentai, but it's the way they're handling a lot of some of these dynamics is just questionable, to say the least.
Yeah. Now, on the other side of the equation, on the side where I was gonna give it some kudos, Osai might have been ineffective in being the catalyst to bring them all together in the way that I would like to see them being brought together. But Osai as a character is pretty awesome, and I love him.
Me too.
Mhm.
Like he was a perfect character to bring onto the season. I love his aura. I love his being and how he just acts. Like imagine Guy but more mature, and you got Osai.
I would definitely go to his class for Sentai
Yeah,
studies.
I would.
Same. Like Osai is a fantastic character, and I am so excited that we have more stuff to do with Osai as we go through the rest of this batch. But that's for later. But no, I think Osai is the piece that made me like this Sentai more, and that's the turn of the tide for me.
Yeah, I'm
Because
just hoping
before
that
this,
we get to see him a bit more because I mean, he's in the rest of these episodes of this batch, but I'm wondering what's going to happen after this batch with the episode
yeah,
that comes immediately afterward.
there's a lot of stuff that where I'm wondering, like, okay, so I'm getting attached to like uh Osai and Tonkatsu and a couple of other people, and I like them more than the main five. But I don't want them to go away because then we're left with the main five.
Oh, Riz, they're not that bad. Well, okay, maybe not to you, but I at least like them. But that's
Okay,
just me,
red
though.
and black are fantastic and they're good. Yellow is annoying. Green, I'm still trying to figure out if I like him or not. And blue just seems kind of there.
Yeah, right.
Tell me
But
what you tell me. Do you actually like those three, Anthony? With a
I think
straight
they're okay.
face.
I think they're okay.
Okay.
Are they the best? Are they the best Rangers ever? No, but like they're just okay. Like
I'll give Yellow props for being so overly cartoonish that he makes me laugh.
Where you
so,
laugh, I face palm.
Blue is just becoming too boring for me. I'm definitely not a big fan of his.
Yeah.
Green, I'm still holding out hope that he can be good, but I mean he's just and Yellow I was defending a little bit in the previous one, but he's starting to become like I don't know, like I get the feeling that they're trying way too hard to make him a homage to like the comic relief strongman Yellow that were so prominent in the Showa era. And I just I here's the thing. I mean, first of all, that it worked in Go Ranger, but every other attempt that they tried to do that, like when they did it in Sun Vulcan and Goggle 5, by that point it was already a cliche that wasn't working out all that well. And now, like decades later, it's still not something that works anymore. So, yeah, I'm
because
kind of with Riz that Yellow can be a little
Because
annoying.
I'm wondering if they're gonna do anything with him and his family. Because I remember he said he has a falling out with his family. I'm hoping maybe one day they'll touch upon that later.
Hopefully.
It's possible, but I mean, yellow is my least favorite, followed by blue, and then green. And green, I've already kind of said in the last batch why I don't like green, but I just think his story was not the best idea.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
continues to build.
what do we want to give episode 7 out of 10?
I'm gonna give this one a 7.
I think 7's appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7's about right.
It's actually kind of funny. I want to go back to Riz's little rant about the whole team not liking how the team's not fully a team thing, and how you were talking about how King Oger did it better. And honestly, hearing you rant about it made me realize something. Actually, I don't think King Oger did it very well either.
Did it better than
Really?
this.
Really?
No, like I'm sitting here listening to him complain about the team. It's like dynamic and everything up to this point, and how King Oger did it better. And then I'm sitting here like remembering there was something about the first like 20 something episodes about King Oger that bothered me. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. You ranting about how you thought King Oger did it better made me realize that no, actually, I hated how King Oger did it too.
But I think the thing about King Oger that I like more was you had a more defined separation by kingdom.
I no, that's not the point. They're supposed to be a team. We know we're going into a show that they're going to be a team. Just be a team from the start.
But okay, but
It made the character interaction so painfully awkward in the first like 15 episodes of King Oger.
Well, okay, so with King Oger, the reason I liked it is it brought out a good motivator to say, hey, I'm responsible for a kingdom, and I got to act in the best interest of my kingdom and my sovereignty. So whenever there is a strained relationship between any of the 5, we can say, okay, you're acting up because you don't want to give your sovereignty to another nation, and that politically makes sense. With these guys, oh, herder, I want to be number 1. What the hell does that mean? What does it mean to be number 1? No one's really explaining it, and then they make it even more convoluted by saying, I want to be number 1 of like being an idol, or I want to be number 1 of being a waiter in a restaurant. Spoiler for later in this batch of episodes, or whatever. Like, number 1 has no meaning because they don't give it meaning. Like, if they had said, hey, number 1 is defined by grabbing this one piece artifact type thing, then that gives you a way to measure number 1-ness. But by having it be a filler episode every week saying, oh no, I have to be number 1 by doing this thing to become number 1 of this one small thing, who the hell cares?
Honestly, the whole you should cater to my kingdom thing and King Oger did get really annoying after a while too.
I mean, yes, after a while, like they should have done it, they should have gotten rid of it quicker.
Yeah.
I agree with you there, but it made more sense for them to have built it that way in general. There's no sense to this. Like number 1, number 1, number 1. I don't care about who the hell's number 1 until you define what am I competing number 1 for? What is the motivation? What do I get out of it? And how do all these small little number 1 things even add up to some bigger thing? It's just a gimmick.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see where Riz is coming from. I mean, I'm personally just kind of indifferent, but I can still see where he's coming from because, truth be told, I mean, I'm not saying that like I'm completely turned off from watching this one, like how we kind of got with Need Ninja and everything, but I'm not as like drawn into it as I've been the last 2 years with King Oger and Boom Boomger.
And that's the thing is I have no motivation to watch this outside of a podcast.
Really, I feel the exact opposite. I'm just enjoying the ride.
No, man, this ain't it.
Actually, that
I don't know. Maybe you're just being a harsh critic, but that's I don't know.
You know what's funny? I'm sitting here still sitting on this. Maybe that's why it took me so long to get into King Oger.
It is.
Because I'll just be honest, I think this is just thing. I don't like it when the core 5 are hostile towards each other. I just don't like that trope now. This has happened twice and I've hated it both times.
Yeah, but I think the problem is I agree with you. I think they shouldn't be doing that trope in general, because if you want to have a Super Sentai, have the Super Sentai be a Super Sentai. I get
Yeah.
that. I agree with you on
See,
that.
yeah, and then like
But-
if you want inner team, stuff like that, do it with the Sixth Ranger.
Not necessarily.
GoZyuger did that. I mean, GoZyuger did it, and it worked perfectly.
It did, but also I think the idea. So taking away the idea of they did it for too long in King Ozer. Like if they had done it for like 10 episodes, that'd been fine, I think.
Yeah,
But doing it for
it would
20, I
have.
think it's the problem you're having, and I'm seeing why you're saying that. I understand it.
Mhm.
But I think even if it was 10 or 20, I prefer that explanation to number one. Because I
mean-
hate it. It bugs me so much.
I mean, at this point, I don't care what their explanation is. Just be a stinking team already.
But if they had but see, like at least with the King Ozers, when you got them together to be a team, it meant something. What does it mean now that these guys are a team?
It means it doesn't annoy me as much.
Okay.
I know that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but that is that's the one thing that's driving me up a wall with it. Just be a team and shut up already.
That might be the title of this podcast, Patrick.
Just be a team and shut up. Part 2.
That's going to be what I'm going to call this podcast when I put it on Spotify. Episode whatever of Tokusatsu, because I've lost count. GoZyuger 6 through 10. Be a team and set up already.
Be a team.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, I know we've been going on this tangent for quite a while, but I just have to just make it abundantly clear that if they had defined this world better and said, hey, we're all competing to be number one of this kingdom or of this power or of something that we're all fighting for, that at least makes sense. But we're sifting what number one means every week.
I already
It's
found out a
lost
way to make.
meaning.
I already found a way to make this whole thing work better.
Get rid of the concept of number one and call it something else.
No, actually, have Tegasword tell them at the very beginning that you five are meant to work together, so they know that they're a team. And then at the very end of the season, he pulls the carpet out from underneath him. Was like, okay, well, now that you have all the rings, now only one of you needs to have all the rings, and then he makes them fight each other at the very end.
That would have been really cool.
Yeah, it would have been a cool, like, last second, like, carpet pull moment.
And
Like,
that would
wait a minute, we care about each other. What do you mean we have to fight each other all of a sudden?
But
You know,
that wouldn't get them to fight each other. That would get them to realize that Tegasword's the real villain of the season and make them fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Him
But
instead.
it would have added a unique piece of tension of like, wait a minute, the mentor's the bad guy.
Yeah. But in this case, like again, what?
Especially because what's his name in this episode came in with the book saying you five are supposed to be a team.
Yeah.
They really feels like they should have known that from the beginning.
They should have.
Honestly, Tegasword pulling that type of twist with Tegasword, like that would have been very much in tune with how. And I'm sorry, I keep bringing up some Kamen Rider seasons, but I do feel like they handled this stuff really well. Like Kamen Rider's had a couple of seasons where someone who supposedly seems like this big benevolent force, who's kind of like a Zordon-esque mentor. Oh wow! Turns out he's the bad guy. Like Ryugi did it. Kamen Rider Wizard. I'm not a big fan of that series, but they actually did handle that twist pretty good as well. Honestly, like if they tried to pull that stuff with Tegasword, okay, you probably could have seen it coming because there always would have been the question of, well, if there's a big fight with the rings, won't the GoZyugers have to fight each other eventually? But you just kind of keep that in the back of your head, and it would still have the same level of impact. But this just kind of goes to show that like. You can make this plot work, but you're handling it way too lightly for it to be good in this case. But yeah, we should probably try to move on to episode 8. I mean, Riz, did you want to add anything else, but just to wrap up that tangent?
Yeah, I think the big takeaways here are this Sentai is a mess of organization and cohesiveness. And this episode is a good demonstration of how, because Osai should have been more instrumental in helping to really pull them together.
Yeah.
And they should have built up to this a lot more prior to episode 7, with them being separate and him being like, hey, idiots, work together.
Yeah.
But they're all hanging out in a freaking cafe, and I hate it.
Oh boy.
All right, on to episode 8,
Well,
Between Right and Wrong,
yep.
The Ring Hunter. Go, go, go.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Riz just gave the title of that episode. So yeah, this is actually a pretty big episode. We learn the mysterious figure at the end of the previous episode. He's this ranger-like villain. I mean, kind of like Wolzard slash Korag type of. Well, I don't know. Maybe he's a bit more comparable to like um whatever Void Knight's counterpart was called in Ryu Soldier. But
Oh,
yeah,
are you talking about
was it Daisolg?
that
Uh,
guy sword.
okay. Um, but yeah, we find out that his name is so first of all, he captures Osai and steals his ring. We find out that his name is Ring Hunter Garyudo. He's a secret weapon for the Queen of the Baraiden, Queen Tegajun. He's collecting rings for her. She's trying to find someone that she can marry to be her king. Um, Howeru gets confronted by his long lost brother. His brother's name used to be Hisamitsu, but now he's known as Qon. He created uh, an AI company called Qon AI Concern. He's trying to make people's lives better. But then we find out, lo and behold, that Qon is actually Garyudo. And he reveals this to Hueru when he shows up at what's supposed to be a job site. The job site being the GoZyugers fighting Fire Candle. And he tries to convince Hueru to join him in this job, but Hueru refuses. And Huan chastises Oreru, calling him weak, claiming that he's nothing and he's never going to get what he wants. And that causes Hueru to get demoralized, and then he lashes out at the GoZyugers briefly. And and then Hueru tries to battle Fire Candle, but then Fire Candle overpowers him. And Q1 defeats the GoZyugers, and then the GoZyugers try to get into an all-out fight, but then Hueru, he's completely demoralized with what Q1 told him, and he's also really upset that he attacked the GoZyugers, so he throws his ring on the ground, declaring that he's quitting the GoZyugers. Just one brief thing here is that we find out that Q1 he has power similar to what Bosco could do with the Ranger keys with his trumpet. His ring allows him to create clones of Rangers based on the rings. He uses Gosei Red and Akaninja
I
here.
think
And
that's probably who you need to compare him to. Is he's kind of like Bosco in a way, with how his powers work
yeah.
and all that.
Yeah. Except, well, Bosco had like somewhat of a Ranger form, kind of like what Inter had in Go Busters. And he uses Gosei Red and Anka Ninja, and he can also summon their weapons to fight. So yeah, that's some pretty cool stuff about Q1. But yeah, what do we think about episode 8?
Horror stocks have gone up a bit.
Who stocks?
Red.
Yeah, most definitely.
This
I
episode
also
was maybe the
Okay.
best one up. This episode's probably the best one up to this point.
Agreed. I think, it's like I said in the last episode. I think these side characters or whatever auxiliary rangers or whatever you want to call them are way more interesting to me than the actual idiots we have on the main cast. Like
Yeah.
I really really like his brother a lot.
Yeah, I was sitting here debating if him revealing himself to Haru was this early was a bad idea, but no, it adds immediate tension. So every encounter is going to be.
We needed that.
Yeah,
because
and I
there's
think
nothing.
so this revealing his identity immediately was actually a good thing.
Like, okay, so prior to this episode, I didn't say 3 idiots. I was saying 4 idiots. But this episode turned Red into somebody I liked. So he's no longer an idiot. Well, he's an idiot, but for a good reason.
Yeah.
I think he's just complex because he's just dealing with like abandonment issues. That's probably why he feels like he's alone
Yeah.
because he literally doesn't have anybody. And then his
He's-
brother comes back and he's like now feels differently.
He's very closed off, and he's slowly leaking out information throughout the show, and he's becoming a lot more deep.
Yeah.
So, as the season goes along, we're going to learn a lot more about him. And now he has a proper rival. I know Candle Boy was like supposed to be his rival. No, he's got a real rival now. This is Juzo Bosco levels.
This is with Fire Candle hit this felt more like a friendly kind of like a back and forth tit for tat.
This is Juzo Bosco.
No, Candle Boy was a boring rival. This is.
I do not agree with you on that. I'm sorry.
I think he's entertaining in his own right, but he's not this.
No, he's entertaining. He's funny, but he's not interesting.
Yeah.
I think that if he didn't have his rivalry with Haru, I honestly would not have liked him either, honestly.
Fire Candle
guy. Because the way their rivalry goes is that like he likes that Haru was going at him like with a fiery spirit or whatever. When he fought him this time, he kind of didn't really get anything out of him. He's like, wait, whoa. Where's my boy Haru? Like he's not like he normally is. Where's that fire? Where's that passion? He's not being himself. I can't fight you like this. I'm sorry. Bye.
He's a respectful rival.
Yeah.
He's not Juzo Bosco, I'm gonna kill you right now type of rival like this, like Ring Hunter is.
He'd be like if Goku were a villain. Goku wouldn't fight somebody who's down under luck or not able to fight their full potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, it sets up a pretty good some more depth to well, I mean, we can talk about it more when we talk about the next episode, but just the fact that like we find out in the previous it was the previous episode that earlier in this batch that like whoever lost his brother and he lost everyone dear to him, and then now all of a sudden he's been reunited with one of those people who was dear to him, in fact his brother, but lo and behold, it turns out that his brother is actually a villain and he's going to be pursuing him for the rest of the series. And that's just going to up the abandonment issues that whoever is going to be facing even more. Like this is honestly the way that this dynamic is set up. This might actually be the best Sentai rivalry, like villain Sentai rivalry that I've seen in quite a while, actually. Like this is definitely better than Takeru versus Juzo. I think it's a lot better than Marvelous and Bosco, because Marvelous and Bosco, I mean, they were cool, but it was mostly just like, oh, Bosco used to be Marvelous's friend, and lo and behold, he's a pirate, he's a jerk, and he stabbed Marvelous in the back. That's how it is. And honestly, it's really, I mean, this might sound blasphemous, but it runs even deeper than Guy's little rivalry with Gray. As great as both those characters were, this is pretty deep stuff for a character arc.
Go ahead.
Too early to say.
No, I'm not gonna support that one, Nate, because you're calling it too early.
Yeah.
If you wait like 25 more episodes, then you tell me that, maybe. But
okay, maybe I'm getting a little too ahead.
Yeah, because
the dynamic that it sets up, though, hopefully they end up taking advantage of it.
I only agree with you just on that emotional note because there are brothers, so I kind of see what you mean by that, but I don't think it's like the better because it's set up better. I just think
it 100% has the potential because the the sibling nature makes it a lot more intense than the others
Yeah.
that you mentioned.
Yeah,
But
exactly,
it
definitely.
still has to stick to land because those three rivalries you mentioned are like
Those are
the
the goats.
rivalries and
Yeah.
those are the rivalries in Sentai.
Like the Zuzo, Bosco, Gray rivalries are the best. And
Mhm.
like, okay, just because they're brothers doesn't mean they're gonna stick the landing like Patrick said, but also
Mhm.
that's a trope that they might just throw out there with no meaning at the end because like most of the stuff in the season they haven't written something cohesive enough yet to say like to prove to me that they've really thought out how this is all going to fit together at the end.
Mhm.
So there's still ample chance for them to mess it up.
Yes, but it was set up in a way that makes me want to see where it goes.
Yeah, and that's what I agree with you on that. But right now, Nate is overhyping it, and I'm sitting here like a fizzled out candle guy, kind of waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I got a little ahead of myself.
I
But,
mean, that
Also,
tells you how
way
good of
too
a
blasphemous, my friend. Way too blasphemous.
Yeah, I was like, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Comparing this to Zuzo and Bosco, dude, you got some big balls there.
As a whole, as one comedian said, whoa, 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 you put some stiff in your chips.
yeah.
But I mean, I think that attests to the good foundation they laid here, where Nate is like, he can see the line towards the end, and the potential is like up there with those three.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where this goes. I genuinely
Same here.
am, and I think the foundation they laid in this episode makes me want to make this a 9. Like honestly,
For sure.
Yeah,
Me
same
too.
here.
This might be my first 9 I've given.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, Anthony, you want to give it a 9?
Yes, I'm giving 9.
Cool. All right. That leads to the second part with this Unbreakable Wolf, episode 9, where whoever is guilty over having betrayed the GoZyugers, he's depressed over his brother, so he gets this job as a server at a restaurant. And he gets into a contest with Fire Candle, who can provide the best service. And whoever confesses he's afraid of being betrayed by people and he won't become close to anyone. He thinks he's better off alone, but then he gets confronted by Tegasword, telling him you shouldn't let your fears take you over and, you should fight on. Kiwan gets into a fight with the other GoZyugers. And then whoever shows up, and the GoZyugers in this really bizarre type of way say, hey, whoever, you can't just abandon us because, you're all in debt to us. Like, you owe this, you owe us this, you owe us that, blah, 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 blah. He rejoins them and he battles Q on himself and then he defeats him and he defeats Fire Candle um, in a mech fight. Fire Candle's desire to fight him is revived. And Homer reunites with the GoZyugers, and Kiwan is revealed to have this massive scar on his back, and he vows that he's going to break whoever's going to break him, and end of episode. What do we think about episode 9?
I like
This felt the ending, even though they were like still a little bit like snarky to one another, this felt like the moment they unified as a team. That ending scene.
Yeah, and this is what they should have done. Like, if this is where Osai came in and said, hey, idiots, be a team, this would have been what he should have done.
Yes.
But they didn't, and that's why I think Osai was kind of wasted, despite being a fantastic character.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sorry, Osai is like my favorite character of the season right now, I think.
But honestly, we can go back to the thing we were talking about with Candleboy when we talk about respectful rivals. See, he actually kind of helped Haru get back on his feet.
Yeah.
Like, I like their dynamic. It's not as deep as Haru's and his brothers, but it's a fun dynamic.
I love how stupid he is. Like, how do you not realize that that's literally Haru? Like, how are you that's stupid?
Yeah, no,
I love him.
It's the Superman effect. Also, I love how the Dash and Dine guy, he chased him down and basically murdered the guy.
Yeah, that poor guy.
Dine and Dash, will you stab?
This is why you don't steal, guys.
Uh-huh. You get chased down by a guy from another dimension with a staff.
Okay, imagine one of those Saban message of the days being, "Hey, don't steal from a restaurant," and
It's
this
this
is what
scene.
yeah.
Let's see.
with the like lighthearted Mighty Morphin music playing over it.
Yeah.
Do-do-do-do.
Oh Lord.
It like freeze frames right before he hits
like,
the guy.
And like as they freeze frame, you got like Tommy, Jason, and Kimberly come out and say, "Remember, kids, you shouldn't dine and dash from a restaurant. Restaurants don't make money." And then you go to jail. And remember, stay out of jail, go to school, don't do drugs.
Don't do school, stay out
Yeah.
Don't do school,
Or
stay out of
Or
drugs.
they did these weird commercials where it was like power promises. So like, you see Billy and Zach saying, power promise number da da da. Don't steal from restaurants. And then it plays that music and this person is like dining and dashing, probably like one of those
No,
people who
you
used
know
to be
what
friends
even-
with Bulk and Skull, and then the King Rangers just come and bust.
Okay, so here's how it begins. You got Zordon and Alpha watching on the viewing globe. Alpha goes, "Ay, ay, 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 Zordon, look at the viewing globe. They're dining and dashing." And then they dispatch the Rangers to go stop these kids from dining and dashing.
Good grief.
Oh Lord.
And then it just cut to that shot of that visual we had in Zoo Ranger where DaiZyuJin's cutting the kid.
Oh my god.
But anyway, yeah, I can definitely agree that this felt more like an episode where they feel where they're coming together more as a team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I have negative things to say about this episode.
What's that?
I hate Tegasword's new configuration with However. I'm sorry. It looks so stupid.
What
Like-
the wolf head like box shape thing?
Yes, it just
Yeah.
looks terrible. Like, why'd you add that on there like that?
I do gotta say this though, his signature weapon, the way it like cut open like dimensional holes and he was jumping, that was
Now
sick.
that was cool. Now that was cool. His weapon
Yeah.
is cool, but when he uses it with Tegasword, it
Yeah.
looks god awful. Like he just looks Tegasword just
It's
looks
like-
fine without all the
And like in
configuration
terms of
stuff.
in terms of visual fighting style for a singular Sentai Ranger, I think this might have been the tops.
Yeah.
Now you're
Yeah,
thinking with portals.
But this was definitely the episode that definitely had me more kind of seeing Hoeru's stocks rising, where we see him more about how he genuinely has that loner feel, like I've lost everyone, I don't want to form any emotional connections. And I'm not going to say that we haven't seen that Red at all, because we kind of had it with Takeru where he didn't want to form emotional connections with the Shinkengers, but in his case it was because, well, it's because he's not actually the person that they're supposed to be. It's a bit more complicated where it's like they think I'm the Lord, but I'm not really the Lord. I'm just a decoy for the real Lord. So I can't let them get too attached to me. Whilst with Hoeru, it's a bit more for an emotional and personal reason. And I mean, it's been happening before, but I feel like the emotional depth is there, and it does make Hoeru his own unique version. I mean, he's very similar to Takeru, but just different enough to be his own type of person.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm glad that they didn't have, the Q1 get killed at the end of this episode. I'm glad that they're going to have it be a recurring thing, and I'm hoping that that he can live up to the hype that I kind of got a little too deep in with the last episode, but yeah, it's I'm starting to feel like GoZyuger, they're not quite on firm footing just yet, but I feel like the show is finding its footing now at this point. Like, would you agree, Riz, as someone who's probably been the most critical of this one?
That this is the episode where we're finding the footing?
Yeah, like it's not on firm footing, but it's starting to get there.
I can see this being the definitive turn of the tide, but while I'm saying that, I still don't think this season is any better than like a C tier.
I mean, I think that's fair enough. I mean, I'm certainly not gonna. I mean, I'd probably lean more toward low B tier, but I but I can see why you would put it in the C tier.
Yeah. Because I just don't think they've done enough to earn a better grade or a better like turnaround yet. Because we still have main cast members who haven't really been developed or given much to do. And they're just now getting unified at episode 9 for whatever that is worth. And it's not really worth a whole lot yet. They have to see how they play it out, because what if they have multiple instances throughout now where it's like, oh hey, Patrick, Riz, here's the moment where they become a team. Because they apparently became a team in episode 7 or 6 or whatever, and now they're a team again at episode 9.
Yeah,
and they'll be a team again at 12.
if it becomes a recurring thing where they have to like reaffirming themselves that they're a unit or something, then it's going to become a problem. This needs to be the moment. You can't keep doing this over again. It will get exhausting if they do.
Yeah, but what do we want to give a 9 out of 10? Episode 9
I
out
mean,
of 10 goes.
9.
Yeah, 9 gets 9.
I'll give it a
9 gets
9.
Was gonna give it a 10, but like I said, the Tegazord unit just threw me off. I was like, hate it.
It's down the episode.
Anthony, let the hate flow through you.
Oh, it looks so bad. I was like,
yeah, I remember when it popped up on screen, I was like, it looks like a patio.
All I could think about was that one meme with that one dude going, ugh, brother, ugh.
All right.
Anyway, let's wrap this up with the last episode of Dispatch, episode 10. Go, go, go. Showa has arrived. This is kind of a fun episode. It revolves around Kinjiro and Sumino, where this Showa era obsessed Snow-on monster sends the world back to a time period similar to the Showa era, and Kinjiro challenges him to a Showa duel. In this episode, Osai gets brainwashed by the queen to fight the GoZyugers. He uses a black colored DaiZyuJin, but then the knee ninja ring that the GoZyugers got earlier is revealed to give the GoZyugers the ability to summon all 5 of their versions of Sword Robo. So Sword Red, blue, yellow, black, and green. They could summon all of them at once, and they're able to defeat DaiZyuJin and free Osai from Baraiden's control. And again, that's all the information on this one. What do we think about this?
DaiZyuJin's dead. Finally.
I knew Patrick was going to say that.
Yeah.
This episode did have one of my favorite visual gags Sentai ever did. When they got sent back in time, she went to pull out her cell phone and it was a rotary phone.
Dude, that was so great.
That was great.
Also, Patrick, in honor of your comment about DaiZyuJin being dead.
Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the heat flow through you.
I was literally going to say that exact thing to Anthony earlier when you said let the thing flow through you, Riz. And here you go play that actual audio.
Good.
Use your aggressive feelings, boy.
And y'all want to know the sad part about it, though? I was literally enjoying everything about GoZyuger except that one thing. That's literally like my pet peeve of the show. That's the sad part.
Yeah.
I think it's sad that that's the only thing you find bad about the season.
I have a different opinion than most of y'all do. I'm sorry. Like, I like the show.
Also, Good use
ahead.
to finally bring that black and gold DaiZyuJin into something.
Dude, that alone gives this episode some points.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
But no, Patrick, I think the best part of this episode was honestly the rotary phone replacing the
That
cell phone.
That was hilarious.
that joke was caught. That's probably the best visual gag Super Sentai's ever done. I loved
Yeah.
it.
And like, it's funny because I was in a group chat the other day and I saw people say, "Oh, GoZyuger doesn't do well with the humor." I'm like, have you seen episode 10?
Yeah.
GoZyuger didn't have a lot going for it, but it has some comedy at some points, guys. Don't worry.
Mhm.
At least it has going that for you. At least it has that going for you. At least.
Yeah.
See, Anthony,
Very-
I can have some
very-
positives.
Beggars can't be choosers, so I'll just have to.
It's like
I'll
this
just-
episode
I'll
was
take-
this
I'll take
episode was
rough kid.
probably about a 6, but the rotary phone joke and watching DaiZyuJin die made it like a 7.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, I kind of like the meta stuff here, where it's like it's kind of giving some commentary where they're showing how simple and kind of less, for lack of a better term, like sophisticated, I guess you could say, that the Showa era was compared to the Reiwa era, and it's like, okay, and this is kind of like there's the older Sentais, they're not near, because that's what I'm getting from this, especially as someone who has seen every Showa era Sentai. It's like you're trying to say, okay, when you compare the Showa era Sentais to the stuff that's coming out today, today's stuff seems a little bit more sophisticated and a bit more well defined, whilst with the Showa era, it's a bit simpler and there's a lot of, you know, way more emphasis on weekly filler episodes and all that, but there's upsides to the Showa era and there's upsides to the Reiwa era in the same way that there's upsides to older Sentai and downsides
Mhm.
to like both things. Like it's pretty cool commentary there, and I can appreciate that. The only issue that I have is that like really you decide to show like something from Taiketsu Zubat instead of showing us like a Showa era themed Sentai. And on top of that,
Yeah.
what why does the new Ninja ring why do you have to emphasize that ring and have that be the one that allows them to unlock this new take a sword thing? Because here's the thing,
Yeah.
there's a perfect ring from the Shin era, which would have been in perfect in tune with this episode, perfectly in tune with this episode. Masked Man, the very first Sentai where all 5 of the Rangers got their own individual mechs. Why can't the Masked Man ring allow them to activate all of their Take a Sword mechs? Like that would have, you don't understand how Ninja, translates to that.
Oh, I know why they did it. I know why they did it.
What's that?
They wanted to give Riz PTSD.
Oh,
Yeah, I was literally about to make the joke of they did that just because they know everybody hates Ninja, so they're like, here, Ninja, deal with it.
No, Patrick, you don't understand. He used the lines from that
Yeah,
thread.
he said the line.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Yeah.
See, you don't have any right to comment on this, Patrick, because you didn't want to watch it with us back in the day.
I heard it was bad, so I was like,
We tried.
We tried. We definitely tried.
Honestly, I want to sit down just to see how bad it is.
It'll
I have to go back and watch it eventually. That's the sad part.
It'll probably get you a rant the similar vein of like Zoo Ranger or Ranger.
I mean, that would be an accomplishment.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm also really annoyed with how he was talking, like how Takaharu was. That just made me roll my eyes as well. And again, like it's also just sad because again, did you just put all the Sentai names in a hat and then said, okay, which Sentai are we gonna pick to like have the ring that unlocks them all able to use Take a Sword at once? And then they just pulled Need Ninja out of a hat. Like i- it's an episode revolving around the show era. So just have it be Masked Man. Masked Man was the first Sentai where all 5 Rangers got their own individual mechs. That's perfect. And that's well included in anniversary season.
Okay, so I'm gonna sound like a broken record here again, but this is a prime example of me telling you guys over and over again that this Sentai has no idea how to organize itself. Because they're just picking random Sentai reds out of a hat, like Nate said, to do things without symbolism or without really thinking about it. Like, at least when Gokaiser first did its big thing, they picked a couple of Sentai that had meaning to the Sentai fandom at that point in time. Like, they picked Go Ranger, they picked Maji Ranger, and a couple of others, like, to kick off, like, their first episode. So, that at least showed that they cared about what was going on. But here they're like, oh, hey, let's get Ninja to be significant to something. Ninja had no significance in Sentai history aside from making me have an aneurysm over a damn lawnmower.
I mean, you kind of just answer your own question. They used Ninja because it was a recent season. That's the only reason why. Let's be real.
Okay, but they could have used Go Buster, they could have used Tokyuzer, they could have used Ryu Soldier, they could have used Dawn Brothers, they could have used King Ozer, they could have used anything. Ninja was not the most recent Sentai.
No, but at the time, what was the first team to get a tribute episode? Magi Ranger. They weren't. They weren't that recent either.
No, they weren't that recent, but
So,
Go Ranger was the first Henson they did.
you know what? Weird thing to spring up out of nowhere, but Aqua Ranger's costume has yet to show up in this, and that's
It probably
weird.
won't.
It's in the intro.
I don't watch the intro. I can't stand that song.
Kind of makes me wonder if Aqua Ranger himself is just going to show up at some point.
Maybe. But now that you mention this, I might go watch the opening again because I couldn't stand watching it after hearing number one. Like, shut up. Until you can define what the hell number one means. I don't really care what your number one stuff.
But yeah, that whole knee ninja thing. I mean, I know it gave Riz PTSD, but it annoys me too because the sad thing is I want to like this episode because I mean, again, I mean, I've seen all the show era Sentai, and I have a real appreciation for it, and I'm glad that and I'm glad that they kind of give us a meta episode to really kind of be a proper tribute to it. Not to mention having Kinjiro be the main character also works perfectly since he's technically a character that would have been alive during that era. Like all this is great stuff, but I just kind of wish that they did more with it. Instead of just having like all of a sudden we want to throw in some random tribute to Kaiketsu Zubat. The only thing that connects with Super Sentai is that the guy who played the main hero in Kaiketsu Zubat was also O Ranger and Big One. Plus, he's also the mentor in O Ranger, but that's beside the point. Like that, okay, but could you show us some more stuff like like him being a fan of like the Showa era Sentais? Could we have a little bit of a tribute to them? Like maybe they use more rings revolving around the Showa era Rangers. And again, you have Mask Man instead of the Knee Ninja Ring. And I know I keep harping on Mask Man, and it's not because I'm a huge fan of Mask Man or anything. It's just that that's like a layup for an opportunity. Like that should have been the ring that they used because of the significance that Mask Man had on the franchise. So yeah, there's some great idea for this episode, but they missed the ball on a lot of things that just really annoys me in particular. Did anybody want to add anything else after that, though? Because I know I just kind of went on a
No,
big rant, but
we're done.
Good. Use your aggressive feelings,
I said my
boy.
piece.
Let the hate flow through you.
He's getting his money's worth out of that one tonight.
so is that just going to be is that just going to be a new regular sound thing that you're going to be playing, Riz?
I guess
Yeah.
so.
Okay, cool. I can look forward to that. And I guess you could use that on the Jedi Squadron as well, because it would feel much more at home. But yeah, but like I said, I mean, there's some good stuff here. I mean, with it, so, but I don't want to rank it too high. I'd probably give it like a 7.
Yeah, that's where I'll put it too.
So I
You're gonna
was
wait,
gonna
wait,
give
give
it a 7. Then Black DaiZyuJin showed up, and I was gonna give it a 9. Then Takaharu's spirit had to come in, so I had to knock it back down to a 7.
Yeah, fair enough. What about you, Anthony?
I think I'm also gonna give it a 7 as well because like I said, if it was for that whole thing with the Ninja, I would have given it a higher score. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, that wraps up this batch. It kind of a mixed ride, although we're still, but I mean, here's the funny thing, like we reviewed the same number of episodes that we reviewed in the last 2 O Ranger podcasts, and we're already like over double the amount of time that we took in those last 2 podcasts. So at the very least, GoZyuger is getting some passionate reactions out of us, even if they're not necessarily positive reactions. So
Hey,
that,
I have a meme for the GoZyugers. Hang on.
yeah,
what's that?
yeah, that works perfectly. Just don't. But yeah, we're still holding out
I
hope
didn't, I
that
didn't, I didn't hear
GoZyuger
anything.
can get better. They've definitely taken some positive steps in the right direction and been taking a couple of steps back as well. But hopefully, come the next batch, we'll see some much more positive developments. But with that said, we thank you guys for checking us out here, and we will catch you guys again when we return to O Ranger. We're believe it or not. We are almost halfway done with O Ranger, and we're only going to be recording O Ranger podcast 2 more times because we're about to pretty much just rip the whole band-aid off with that Sentai and be done with it soon, and then we can move on to some much more positive stuff. Some positive stuff, and then some stuff that's bad, but it's at least bad enough to provoke a passionate reaction out of us. I'm talking about this one particular Sentai, but I know Patrick is going to get really passionately hateful toward.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. But with that said, we will catch you guys next time when we return to O Ranger. But until then, bye for now. If you enjoyed listening to the Toku Secrets podcast, please check us out at animesecrets.org and follow us on all our social media pages such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And also feel free to check out our other podcasts, including Anime Declassified and the Jedi Squadron. You can also leave us any feedback you'd like to offer us directly on our website. If you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes, we thank you so much, and please leave us a rating out of 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed, and leave any comments down below, as we love to take the time to read comments left on our channel and give our fans, shout-outs. If you have any seasons of Super Sentai, Power Rangers, or other Tokusatsu shows that you'd like for us to check out, please don't hesitate to say so in your feedback. With all that said, we thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our podcast, and we will see you next time as we continue our never-ending journey through the world of Tokusatsu. But until that time, you all stay safe, we love you, and may the power protect you.